excited today to have Denise Burns with us. She has an incredible story to tell that spans 19 plus-ish years. We're going to let her tell the story, but it's her journey, and it's also the journey of her family and her son, Fletcher. Such a cool little dude. And take us back, Denise. Let's just go back to the beginning of this little guy's life. You know, when his life began, I guess.
Yeah. So Fletcher was born at the end of 2024, and
at the end of when?
Not 2024.
No, it's okay.
2004.
2004.
2004. So he was born on December 30th, 2004. And I had a fantastic pregnancy, no issues. I was 39 years old, so I was considered high risk. So there were no issues at all with my pregnancy with Fletcher. But when he was born, I had a scheduled C-section, and he had, well, they called it a rash, but it was not a rash on his face. So he went straight to the NICU. I did not see him because I had to recover for 8 hours before I could actually go to the NICU to see him. So I was brought a Polaroid picture of him, and my husband stayed with him. And so it wasn't until he was 5 weeks old that we got a diagnosis. He stayed in the NICU for 19 days. He would not eat. He didn't sleep. He cried all the time. He was just, he didn't need a ventilator. He was the biggest kid in the NICU at that time. So he wasn't, he weighed 7'9" when he was born. So he was an average.
So he didn't seem
baby.
to be malnourished or anything like that.
His right eye wouldn't open. So he had a ptosis in his eye, and then his skin was kind of not anything like it was when he died, but just it looked different. You could tell there was something not right with his skin. And so, but then he started to have feeding issues, and we couldn't get him to, suck, swallow. And so then he'd have an NG tube. And so before we could take him home, he'd have to have 45 ounces of formula. And that took us forever. And so we got him home, and after, 19 days in the NICU, and I've been a stay-at-home mom, so I stayed with him during the day, and my husband went back to work after a few days of being home with me and kind of helping me figure out what we were doing, because he didn't come home with oxygen, he didn't come home with an NG tube, he didn't come home with anything. He was just Fletcher who didn't sleep, eat, or only cried all the time.
So did he seem like a normal baby for the most part at that particular point? Other than not eating very well?
Well, kind of. I mean, it looked different.
And when I say normal,
I know,
in terms of what society would deem normal?
Yeah. Well, I was probably a little bit in denial about that because I was in this mom's Bible study group, and someone else had a baby maybe 5 or 6 days after Fletcher. So whenever I would start to get Fletcher out and we would go to Bible study, it wasn't dawning on me that he wasn't even trying to hold his head up. He wasn't. Oh. He was really small compared to this other baby that was just a few days, younger than him. And so I didn't really get it,
Yeah.
So I didn't understand what was happening. I just kept trying to feed him, and we would go to the pediatrician, all the time trying to figure out. We'd change formulas, we'd bump up the calories, we'd all this. And then when he was 16 weeks old, I guess, we had been to the pediatrician 3 times that week, and my pediatrician was not alarmed at all, and I was starting to be alarmed because, like I said, he didn't sleep, and he was, tiny, and he was not a fun baby,
Yeah.
like he should have been starting to become,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they sent out home health, which I had no idea about home health or nothing. So a nurse came to our home, and she put an NG tube in him in my living room.
Was that the first time?
That was the first time. So she put an NG tube in him in my living room. So the thing about that is you need an X-ray to make sure that the NG tube has gone where it's supposed to go.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, and she told me, now if this comes out, just put it back in. And I went, oh, absolutely not. We're not coming back in. We'll go to the emergency room. And that night, of course, so now we're really tired too, because we've got this baby
Yeah.
who's something else. And so my mother-in-law and father-in-law said, why don't you guys go to dinner and go to a movie and we'll watch Fletcher. Now he has a way to eat. He should be getting some calories. He should be fine. So we went to dinner and we were going to go to a movie. And I told Craig, I said, I can't do it. We've got to go home, And so we went home and.
Were you just nervous or were you just feeling something?
I was nervous. I was anxious.
Okay. Yeah.
And what about?
So, Craig?
No, what about, what were you nervous about? Like,
What was I nervous about?
What
I
was
thought
your
you said,
concerns?
I don't know. It was just, I really can't tell you at that time what was making me nervous, but I just needed to get home.
Yeah.
And so we did, and he was gray. My mother-in-law was holding him, and I was like going, oh, he's not okay. He's not okay. And so my husband was going, well, maybe we can in the morning take him to this doctor. I was going, oh, we got to go now.
Yeah.
We got to go now. And, he was technically my third child, but only my second child that I gave birth to. And so my middle daughter is, she was a great eater and a great sleeper. And, so I just knew something is not right. And so sure enough, we went to the ER and then they had, he was so sick. He was so sick. And they ended up, because we went to Mercy because that's where we lived close to. And they have a NICU, but they do not have a PICU. And so they said that he's going to have to go to Integris. And so they loaded him up, lights and sirens, and they were trying to intubate him. And they were not able to intubate him. And they finally were while they were en route. They were able to intubate him, and then they bagged him, I guess, the whole way. And so we got there, and, they do all that they do. They put him in a medically induced coma and put in a central line and started feeding him that way and giving him medicine. And so, but he was failure to thrive, which we did not know. And our pediatrician had never said anything to that. He had pneumonia in both of his lungs, and he had a horrendous ear infection. Personally, I believe that he got pneumonia because of the NG tube that was in his nose. That's what I think happened, but who knows what happened. So he was in the hospital for, I think like probably about 4 or 5 weeks that time.
Were you at any point with all of the things that, you keep hitting the wall.
Yeah.
Were you at any point thinking, our baby's not going to make it?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
sure, certainly. Absolutely thought that. But the hospitalist or the intensivist told us, he said, if we can just get this boy to weigh 22 pounds. So he was 16 weeks old, and he didn't even weigh 10 pounds. So,
Really?
So he's like, if we can just get him to 22 pounds, he'll be golden. And so that was the goal. And so we met with a GI doctor, and they put a G tube in him because that was how he was going to get his nutrition.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and they were able to get him off the ventilator. We got a G tube, and he was doing okay. So we went home. And it wasn't a few weeks later, and we were back. And so we were back at the Baptist. They were familiar with him. We, this time after getting him successfully off of he had pneumonia again. I don't know how, but he kept getting pneumonia. And so this next time after we got home, we went home on oxygen. So we got a nasal cannula. And so he was just a really sick little kid. And
Born that way, obviously.
Yeah. we probably should not have gone home when we went home, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
but I kept pushing for it because I just kept thinking, if we could just get him home,
Everything's going to be
it's
okay.
going to be okay. He'll eat. We'll figure this out, you
Mhm.
know, not even, you know, totally, completely clueless about
Yeah.
what we were dealing with. But my husband, who his first wife, his late wife, she was sick in the last few years of their life. So he kind of knew this life and what it was going to be like. And this is what we do. Because I was like, I don't know, what are we doing here? You know, because we would be in the hospital for weeks
That
and
can be
weeks at a time.
terrifying.
And we had a 2.5-year-old at home and an
Oh.
11-year-old at home, you know. And so, but we have a wonderful family. And so everybody pitched in and helped us when we'd be in the hospital. And I would be there all day during the day. And my husband would come after he got off work and he would stay there till midnight or 1 o'clock. And so we did that 9 times. And by the time he was about 9 months old, they were trying to figure out why he kept getting pneumonia so much. You know, is it his heart causing it? Is his lungs causing it? And so he ended up having open heart surgery when he was 10 months old.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that should have helped, and we should have been able to get him off the ventilator, because that was what would happen. We'd go, and they'd have to intubate him, and then we'd be on a ventilator, and then we'd have to, you know, wean him off of the ventilator, and then we'd go home, and then we'd come back, and we'd have to be on the ventilator. And we did that, like I said, 9 times. And so this last time, they started talking to us. We were at Children's Hospital because they had the heart surgeons there, and they did it
Right.
at Integris, and we went to Integris every time. And so we were there for 25 days. He should have been able to have the surgery and a few days later been off of that ventilator, and they could not successfully get him off the ventilator. So they thought, maybe we'll send him back to Baptist, and those doctors are familiar with him, and they can get him in there. And we're like, yes, we'll absolutely go back. Because at this point, it had become like a home away from home for us. You know, all the nurses knew him. They knew who they were dealing with. They knew our family situation. They were just fabulous to
Yeah.
us and treated him so well. And so while we were there, they were like, you guys, we cannot get him off of this ventilator. He is going to have a trach, and he's going to need long-term care. And that had been presented to us after his second hospitalization there, and I took great offense to it because the doctor told me, you know, I didn't know. I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life. I didn't know anything about Bethany Children's Center.
Yeah.
Nothing. I knew nothing about it. And so, except for the Christmas lights and driving through, that's all I really
Yeah.
knew about it,
Yeah.
you know. And so I on that second hospitalization, the intensivist came to me and he said, I think he would do better if we could place him at the Children's Center. And I was like, absolutely not. No way. I said,
Why were you thinking that? What
I
was
thought,
your...
what I said to him was, you think I can't take care of my baby? I can take care of my baby. And he said, you know, I don't know if he can take care of your baby or not, but I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be his last rodeo. He will be back. And he was 7 more times. So we went and checked out the Children's Center, and, you know, it was clean and bright and lovely. And, you know, we looked at it. So we made the decision that he could go there. And our thought was he would be there. We always thought the trach and the ventilator were temporary.
Mhm.
We really always thought that. And as soon as he gets off of the ventilator, he'll come home. It'll be just like a normal kid, you know? And so that obviously did not.
Never giving consideration to the fact that this is his normal.
Right. Exactly. And
Man.
he was so sick that those first several months there, he was so fragile and so sick, but he needed 24/7 care. You
Yeah.
know, there was no way we would be able to do that. And at the time, our insurance wouldn't pay for a ventilator in our home, you know? So it was just like,
Mm.
he can't come to our home. And the intensivist said, it will be like you are running an ICU in your living room. He cannot go home on a ventilator. It's not doable. And I was like, okay. And so, you know, a few months turned into 7 years. And Fletcher lived at the Children's Center for 7 years. And after, you know, I think everybody kind of got to know him, and the doctors kind of were able to help him, he started to thrive there. And, he was able to have his education there. All of his therapies were there. All of his doctors were there. So it ended up being a lovely experience for him to be there.
That is so cool.
And we got to where they trained us on the ventilators, and we were able to bring him home. Like, we didn't do overnights because that was kind of scary at first.
Yeah.
And so we ended up to where we would take him home for Christmas, for Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day. And so we did holidays for, 5 or 6 years that we would bring him home. But he always just did better at the Children's Center,
Wow.
So we, but they started where they call it sprinting, where he would be off of the ventilator for 8 hours a day. And so the goal was for him to be off of the ventilator during the day and, have the ventilator at night, like when he slept and all that. And so they tried that, but Fletcher was always frustrated being off the ventilator because he couldn't talk. And that's all he ever wanted to do was talk.
Oh, bless his heart.
He did sign language, and he was really, really smart. And so, anyway, at this time, so this in 2013, we started, or I guess 2012, we started the process of bringing him home. And at that time was when TEFRA came about, and that was like Medicaid for kids like Fletcher.
Yeah.
And they would pay for a ventilator, and so he could come home. And so we started working on that, and in February of 2013, we brought him home to live with us after being there for his, 7 years. So that was hard. It was really hard. And we, of course, qualified for nursing, but
That's a major life change. I mean,
yeah.
even though he was your son,
Yeah.
and you had been a part of and experienced all the hospital stuff, he was at the Children's Center
Yeah.
for them to.
I was not solely responsible for his
Exactly.
care.
That's a life change.
Yeah, it was a big life change. And
For Fletcher too. It's
yeah,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he had constant people
Yeah,
that he
right.
was
Yeah.
able to hang out with.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved people.
It had to feel a little bit like his home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that was his home. I believe that with all my heart that was his home.
Mm.
And that was, at that time, our oldest daughter, she was 19, so she didn't live at home. She had moved on in her adult world trying to figure out how to adult.
Yeah.
And so it was just Maddie and Fletcher at home. And my in-laws, so at this time, Maddie was 11, maybe?
A couple years older
Yeah,
than
she's
him.
2.5 years older than Fletcher. And
Yeah.
so she was in 5th grade. And so she, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law came over every night after we brought Fletcher home and helped us give him a bath, do all the stuff that had to be the medicines, the feedings, all that. They helped us every night. They come over for a couple hours, and then a nurse, because a nurse wouldn't come till 11 o'clock. Their shift was 11
Was
to.
he still brittle?
No, that kind of happened a little bit later
Okay.
with his rickets. So, yeah. Well, no, he was being treated for that. So, like when he was 3, when we were at the Children's Center, he ended up with electrolyte deficiencies, and so we ended up in the hospital, and we were there for a couple of months, and the Children's Center would not take him back unless he could take the electrolytes, which they were giving to him IV,
Right.
unless he could take them via G-tube, he could not come back. So they figured out a way to get him phosphorus and, calcium and all that. And so, but he was going back to the Children's Center to die at that time when he was 3, because they said he had the bones of a 99-year-old woman. And
That's crazy.
yeah, it was crazy. It was real crazy. And so he was, we thought actively dying then, and then they get him situated where he can take everything by G-tube, and we're going to go here and we're going to start the process.
Yeah.
And we told our children's teachers, and everyone knew that we told our girls, that Bubba was not good, and anyway. So, but literally, like the minute we got back to the children's center, people were coming from all over the place to see him and all that. And it's like, as soon as he got back there, he started to thrive again. And things started to fall into place. And I mean, like he couldn't even sit up. He'd have to lay down. We'd have his wheelchair laid down like this. And eventually the plan was to eventually start to get it to go back up. And so, he was able to have, it's called Penmitronate, and it's an IV therapy. And they did that like every 3 months. So things were getting better with his bones, I'm guessing. And so, but still very fragile. They would find old fractures when they would do an X-ray. And so, yeah, he definitely, but I guess maybe not as brittle to answer that, if that answers that question.
I don't want to get too off the linear storyline here, but like, you're in the hospital almost immediately in catastrophic circumstances. As his mother, are you just in your heart living and dying on these experiences where his health, and they're telling you, oh, well, we're going to the children's hospital for this to be, like in your heart, or are you just like galvanized and serving the purpose? I think
I am, at that point, I had 2 other children that I had to be cognizant of. And Craig and I both, are just wanting to put one foot in front of the other and just try to do the next right thing. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to get in that kind of mental state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
So like almost immediate survival mode.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we, that's kind of where we lived for 17 years is in survival mode,
amazing.
and trying to just do what is best for him, but what is also best for our other children and our marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just really just trying to do the next right thing by all of them. So, and I mean, if I sit back and think about that now, wow, what a burden to carry and think is my responsibility. You know what I mean?
But yeah, absolutely.
We have amazing support. We love Jesus, and we go to church, and we had friends who, helped as they could, because they would mostly help with Maddie, because you couldn't really help with Fletcher unless you were trained to help him.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was a lot. It was a lot. And
so he's never walking. He's always
in a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair.
Now, he did have what was called, now in therapy, they tried all kinds of things. They tried all kinds of things. And so he did end up with a kid walk. And that is, you could put his ventilator on the back of it, and he would, pedal his feet, and it had like a big wheel. It's like a wheelchair, but he was in a standing position.
Yeah, cool.
And so, and he loved that thing. He loved that thing. He
so
loved the
awesome.
Independence that it gave him, So, but when my back to my in-laws coming over every night, my daughter, Maddie, who is struggling, and I'm not really realizing how she's struggling, she goes, why are there always people here? There are always people in our house. And so to me, it's time for them to go. And so we thanked my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and we didn't let them come anymore unless it was just for a regular visit, but not every night. They weren't coming. And because it was taking a toll on Maddie.
I could see that.
It was taking a toll on her.
I
and
could
so
see that.
she was struggling in a different way, So it was like, okay. And then she loves her Aunt Christy and her Mimi, but they weren't there for her. I think that's very
understandable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was definitely a struggle for her. And so we let that go, and then we just kind of figured it out. And we only had night nursing. We qualified for 16 hours a day, but nursing was a beast of its own. And so we would have a nurse at night from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so I was, when I think about this, is kind of terrifying too, is that I was with Fletcher all day by myself during the day. And so, because Craig would go to work, and then here I am with this ventilator dependent kid, but
What did you do during all that time? I mean,
Well-
did you
Stops.
were you focused on were you focused on trying to keep him entertained? Were you trying?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Fletcher was very cognizant, but he loved people and he loved Legos. He just
Mm.
always wanted to do something. So I got the bright idea that he needed to be a part of his community. And so we're going to go to Target and we're going to go to Hobby Lobby. And our pharmacy was at Target. So my main reason for going to Target at that time was that the pharmacist needed to see who they were serving. And so I would take him there, and then it just got to where I would just keep him busy. We just had to be busy, so that was in the car. We were very blessed to have a handicap accessible van, and so I could load him up and we could go. So we did every day. I mean, like Starbucks. I mean, anywhere that was as what he started to call stops, and so. I homeschooled him so he went to Bethany, is where he went to school, Bethany Elementary, and he went there for kindergarten twice and then first grade. And we came home in the middle of his first grade year, and so he got to finish out there, but they wouldn't let him transfer in. And my daughters, we had transferred there, so they went to school there.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know this at the time, but I was writing letters and saying, he's not taking a spot. He's already has a spot, so he's not taking
Yeah.
a spot. And
Yeah.
this is what he's used to. Could he please stay? And we got rejected and didn't get to go back.
That's
So
a shame.
yeah, it was but when a child is on an IEP,
Yeah.
there's money that goes to the school for them, but
Yeah.
you have to live in the district or the money's not going to
Gotcha.
go for that kid. So they'll
Yep.
be spending money for a nurse to be with him.
Gotcha.
And, so it's just like it seems unfair, but it's
It
fair.
is what it is.
It's
yeah.
fair. And so
Mhm.
I didn't want him to go to the school that Maddie went to, and so before she transferred, and so I homeschooled him, and so that would also take us. We would have to get out of the house. So then I started thinking, well, we could do sequencing this way, and we could be counting, and so we would count our stops, and then he would have to tell me in what order we did the stop. Then we go to Target first, and so I use his learning, but also to where I wasn't having to entertain him 24/7 as
Gotcha.
well. Let's be honest.
I could understand. I think.
So then he got to where we always counted stops until the day he died. He counted other people's stops. He'd be really interested in where you had been if
I like
he
that
ran
part.
into you.
That
Yeah.
I like that part. Like he stops is the currency for Fletcher. You
For
know,
sure.
like,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
let me see what you got in your wallet. You
Yeah.
pull out 3 stops, and he's
He would say, he would either tell you were lame or he would tell
need
you
at least
were
10,
boring.
man.
lame or boring.
The
yeah.
more stops,
Oh.
the better for that kid.
Oh,
if he
that's
wanted,
too good.
yeah.
He hit me at the gym like that. How many stops did you get today?
I'm like,
I was
oh.
like, stops? I don't. Just this one.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't measure up.
Right.
Well, the funny thing about that is so Fletcher and I, we would count our stops during the day because I stayed home with him until he died, but we would go on stops. And so we would count them, and the more stops, the better. Okay. So he would, first we go to the gym, then we go home, then we go to therapy.
Okay.
then we go-
Let's go back just a second.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
You said you went to the gym. What did he do while you were exercising, working out?
Brian, what did he do when I was training with the trainer or doing cardio?
Hot laps.
What's that?
Well, the first time Fletcher came in, I don't know if it was the first time. I think Jason had a time, like a friend of ours, Jason Turner, had an opportunity to let me know that this kid was, dynamic, but he was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I might be a skosh immature myself.
No.
So,
Skosh.
so in my head, I thought, here's this kid. He's in his chair all the time, but he's got baby gloves on him. You know, he might like to, you know, run some red lights, do wheelies.
Oh boy.
And so, like, the first time she brought him in, and I was, excuse me. And she's up on this elliptical. She's stuck.
And you've not met him.
No, I think I knew him. It got to
Okay.
a point where, I mean, I was going to the gym without him for a couple of years. And then
Gotcha.
we had daytime nursing issues. And it's like,
Okay.
well, if you're going to work out, he's going to have to go with you.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to go with you, or
Yeah.
you're going to lose every bit of whatever you just
Gotcha.
worked on, you know? So I would take him with him. And so I would just park him next to the elliptical and I would do my cardio. And then we would go and do weights or whatever. And we would let him do them as well. Like I would get him out of his chair and he could do tricep, you know, with no weight on him. And he'd make noises. Remember how
Yeah.
he was the worst counter in the world. You did not want him counting your reps because
Because you're not going to get finished.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
he's going to cheat you out of them.
Yeah.
Is what it's going to be. It's like you got 5 more to do. It's
yeah.
like, no, I just did 15. You know? So, yeah, no. So he was just parked while I was doing some cardio. And then here comes Brian.
So
So I was gonna, you know, it's a chair, and so yeah, Denise, you mind if I push him around a little bit? She's like, yeah, and so immediately, like I didn't even warm up. I just took him and like started making General Lee sounds, you know, and took the wheelie up, and Denise just went.
I can imagine that.
Well, because he's not just a kid in a wheelchair. He's
Yeah.
a kid
I
who
can see.
is on a ventilator.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
who
can
has
see my
a
wife.
trach.
Get that guy away from me.
Yes. He's got cords and
Yeah,
stuff
he's
hanging
got
off
tubing.
everywhere. Yeah.
He's got feeding that's going that could turn out to be a disaster if
Oh,
his G-tube comes
shoot.
out. And so I told Brian, I said, dude, what are you doing? I said, if that trait comes out, what you going to do? What are you going to do? He said, I'm going to bring him back to you. So, yeah.
But in fairness,
In
Fletcher and
fairness.
I had a ball.
I can
absolutely.
imagine.
Yeah.
I can
Fletcher loved
imagine.
it. Fletcher wasn't afraid.
He was along for the
wasn't. Yeah,
ride.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
It was Mom who was putting the
I
brakes
was
on stuff.
right about him
Shoot,
wanting to
yeah.
go fast. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That
He's
is
a
so
mess.
good.
He's a mess. So, yeah, he went everywhere with me.
So you're at that point. I'm still going back in my mind up to this point where we are now. Has he ever been diagnosed with something, anything in particular, or a specific
Yeah.
disease or
has
something?
several diagnoses.
Okay.
At
So-
what points too? Like when did you
So
find
at
out?
5 weeks old, they said that he had epidermal nevus.
Epidermal neva.
Like your
Epidermal
skin.
neva.
Nevus.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
which is kind of in the little family of linear sebaceous nevus. And the nevus is a mole or a birthmark, but his happened to cover, like his whole face.
One thing or multiple things?
Well, at first it was just one.
Okay.
And as he got older, it became warty and thick and all that. And so he had that. So we had to go, when he was 5 weeks old, at that time, there were no pediatric dermatologists in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So we went to Texas and I think we were at Cook's Children's, and met a dermatologist there. And she was like, oh, yeah, this is epidermal nevus. It won't be a syndrome unless he has eye problems, bone malformation, and he'd probably have some learning and learning disabilities. I said, well, what do you mean by learning disabilities? Oh, like he'll need some help with math. I was going, oh, okay, we can do that, And at that time, he was still at home. He wasn't at the children's center.
Yeah.
He hadn't had his first hospitalization yet,
Yeah.
so other than being in the NICU. And so we went home. And
So you didn't yet realize he's checking off all of these things.
Right. He had already checked off the eye because when he was born, he
Yeah.
had a ptosis in his right eye. So, but we didn't know anything about his bones, of course, or his intellectual disabilities.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way to tell that.
Yeah.
So, that is his diagnosis. So his heart and lung issues are not related at all. So that probably, and no one knows that either. So I think just because he was in the hospital so much and had pneumonia so many times,
Yeah.
I think that just kind of wrecked his lungs. And so he, ended up being ventilator dependent. So that didn't have anything to do with his syndrome. And then he has scoliosis.
Oh,
And
my
so
goodness.
that got really, really bad at the end. But so scoliosis, and we're not treating it. We're just checking it. We're going every 6 months to the orthopedist, and they're doing their
Yeah.
x-rays, and we're just keeping track of it. And no one's talking about surgery. But when they do start talking about surgery, it's real scary because of his ventilator and just how complex. He's medically fragile. He's medically complex.
Yeah.
So it's just not very many people want to take a chance on that
Yeah.
kid, So we were fine because we've heard scary stories about spinal fusion surgery, It's like,
Sure.
if we can do without it, let's do without it, So he just went everywhere with me. But back to counting our stops. So we would report to Dad every night. And so my husband, Craig, would call his mom every night because I did daytime duty. So Craig got the evening duty till the nurse gets there at 11.
Gotcha.
And so they read and they pray and they do all their stuff, but they would call his mom every night, and Craig would read to both of them. And
That's
so
adorable.
so they
is.
would read. Well, he would also ask Mimi how many stops, and she would tell him, and then she'd go, "What about your stops?" So he would tell her his stops. Like, first I go to therapy, I go to school, and he's so this. Well, every now and then, maybe once a week, we would drive through Brahms for Mom. Okay. Don't tell my trainer. Don't tell anybody.
This
So
size-
I would tell
that
you
size and shape diet.
it was not. It was not. And so I would tell him it's a secret. We don't have to tell Dad and Mimi about Brahms
Yeah.
in our stops. Okay,
Yes.
they don't have to know. They don't have to know how often Mom is going to Brahms. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so he would tell them, first I go here, I do this, I do that. It's a secret, and I come home. So Brahms is lovingly known as it's a secret.
It's a secret.
And he'd be in his room with his dad, and I could hear him, and I would yell, "Fletcher! You don't got to tell everything you know to those two." So it was he ratted me out every time
That is
where
so good.
he went. So it was so much fun. He was so much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
he was hysterical, and he had a sense of humor. And when we
Yeah.
brought him home, in order to get TEFRA, you have to do a medical evaluation, a mental, psychological evaluation. And I made the mistake of looking at that evaluation with a person who had never met Fletcher. I mean, I don't know if he looked at anything that Fletcher had ever done. He had 15 minutes with Fletcher. And at this time, Fletcher's almost 8, or he is 8. And he says that Fletcher has the intellectual ability of a 1-year-old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And before we left the Children's Center, Fletcher knew all of his colors. He could say them, he could sign them, he could spell them. And he would spell them in sign
Oh, my
language.
goodness.
And so he was super smart. So I was super offended by that. And
Sure.
this, obviously it's a core memory for me because I still remember it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was real hard to hear about him. But he was smart and funny and joyful. He
Yeah.
loved people. And I'm positive that he had no idea that he was different than other people. I mean, I just don't think he knew it, even though, people were not always kind to him.
Yeah.
And we would have random people at Target who wanted to stop and pray for him, for the Lord to heal him. And
Mm.
I was like, of what? I mean, he's perfectly happy. And he's
Yeah.
exactly the way God made him. He's exactly the way God made him. I didn't do this. God did this, And so that was always a real struggle to have people who
I
don't
can imagine.
understand what they're saying, So we'd have people that we would run into that maybe be from school, maybe be from the gym, and people that I wouldn't always know who they were. We were always at Target. I mean, that was his favorite place, was 12th birthday, we had a Target themed birthday party. So he loved Target, and people would stop and go, "Oh, I know Fletcher from blah blah blah." And I go, "Oh yeah," and then they would leave, and Fletcher would say, "Who was that?" And I go, "I don't have any idea, Bub. I thought you knew who they were, you know." So we have no idea who this person is, but we had people all the time that knew him, and we had no idea who they were. So he
That is
was
amazing.
yeah, he was fun, lots and lots of fun.
Did you ever? You said he was happy. He didn't realize, probably, you didn't think he realized there was anything wrong. Did you ever wonder why God did make him that way? Going back to, you said people would want to stop and pray with him to heal him. Did you? And you said this is how God made him. Did you ever wonder why God made him that way, or how God allowed that to be?
I can honestly tell you, no, I have not thought that.
That is
And
amazing.
My answer to little kids, to grown-ups, to anybody that want to know what happened to him, you know, that would happen a lot, and I would say nothing happened to him. He's just the way God made him, you know, and
That is so cool.
and that's, I mean, it's the truth, right?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean, God knew about him before the foundation of the earth. And
Yeah.
so he was exactly who he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he had a mission, and he did it well.
Did the doctors ever tell you there would be a lifespan less than the normal?
Not in so many words. I mean, they, you know, one time when we were at the Children's Center, when he was real sick and we had gotten back there and he started doing better, you know, there was a bedside, you know, I guess she was a nurse practitioner. She was talking to me, and she said, "Surely there's some part of you that knows that he will not have a long life." And I told her there was no part of me that knew that. There was no part of me that knew that or would surrender it. And that, after that, when they told us he was dying and it's time for us to, you know, we looked at cemeteries, we did all the things, and we didn't pull the trigger on any of those things, but we did look into them. No one was saying that again after he got back to the Children's Center. Because, I mean, and Craig and I had to get to a point where we couldn't wait for him to die. We had to know that only the Lord knows the number of Fletcher's days. He only knows the number of my days. So we're not going to sit here and be afraid and just wait for him to die. When's it going to happen? We're not
that
doing
is
that.
such a cool approach, because it removes all the, maybe not all, but it removes so many barriers, and
Sure.
and enables you to embrace the moment and live and enjoy life with Fletcher.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what I've heard that same thing. My departed, she said, "Brian, I'm not going to waste time lamenting a death that hasn't happened, that I don't know
There you
when
go.
it's going to happen."
Yeah.
There you go.
Like,
Yep.
I'm not going to spend a second.
It doesn't
Yep.
accomplish anything.
That's right.
It won't accomplish anything except for us being afraid
Yeah.
and him living a very small life.
Yeah.
you
How was
know?
he accepted at school?
So we went to Bethany and
Go Broncos.
go Broncos. And so they made a video, and my daughter, Maddie, she was the MC of the video, and we walked around the Children's Center, and Maddie explained to them about a ventilator and that it might make noise. And it's the cutest thing you've ever seen. And so they show that to his kindergarten. They asked me if I would come. Fletcher he wasn't in school yet. They were preparing the kids for Fletcher to come, because, you know, he's got a chair. He's a big presence with that ventilator. And,
Sure.
and of course, he looks different. And so they asked me if I would come when they showed the video to all the kindergartners, and would I feel, you know, like I could answer questions. I said, absolutely. The only thing that those kids wanted to know was, why was he so little? They weren't concerned about his skin. They were not concerned about the trach or the ventilator or the pulse ox. They wanted to know, why is he so little? And I'm like, good question, buddy. I don't know. It's just the way God made him, I mean, so he had a ball over there and loved it. And he was accepted there. The kids loved him, and they all would say hi to him. And I spent maybe one semester, I was his medical person because they weren't able to find a nurse to be with him. So he's either going to have to stay home or I was going to go with him. And so I gladly went with him to school. And the kids were just precious and kind and loving to him, wanted to help him, wanted to read to him, and the thing about Fletcher is Fletcher doesn't like kids. He likes adults. At the children's center.
Well, his bones are 99 years old, so sure, why not?
Yeah.
Exactly. He didn't have any peers at the children's center. You know what I mean? He had adults. That's who he
That is interesting.
That's who he bossed around.
That's really interesting.
And so he loved adults. And the more animated, the better.
Yeah.
He loved adults. And so
I think she was referring
I'm talking
to
about you. And so he was, he was tolerant of them, which is kind of, I have some old videos where and he did not talk for a long time. He was nonverbal for a long time. He'd use sign language and stuff, but very modified sign language for him. But you could see him just being mean as crud to these little kids who are trying to be nice to him.
No, I gotcha.
So he liked adults. So he is a mess. He was just a mess. So
You've said multiple times how he was so small. What was the maximum height that he grew to?
gosh, I don't know. He was, I can't even remember. We used to keep track of it very diligently, but he was probably 3 feet tall, if he were to stand up on a good day and not have that big curvature. So he was little. And I never really understood that. Get closer. Okay. Sorry. I never really understood that, why he was so small. But on the day that I went in for my scheduled C-section, the biggest fear I had about Fletcher is that he would have dwarfism. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it's TLC I was watching or something. I don't know. But I had a real big fear about that. And I didn't think about that again until I was like, well, he was little, his arms and his legs were proportionate to his body.
Right.
So he did not have dwarfism. But I just think it's funny that he was so
That is
little.
interesting,
And that's something that I was so worried about. But that, fear went completely away when we had to.
Yeah.
And honestly, bro,
All the other
Fletcher
stuff.
was so you didn't have to know Fletcher for any amount of time before you just looked right past that, to where when you thought about him, you didn't even think about the things. You just kind of thought about this character and this Riz. Do you know what Riz is? That's what the kids are saying for charisma now.
Like he's that much younger than us.
I'm not.
For real.
I'm not. My phone doesn't even recognize my face anymore.
Right.
Did you ever really, in the 17 plus years of his life, did you ever really feel like you ever really just relaxed? Or were you always kind of on edge, keyed up, living Fletcher? Not that you neglected Maddie and the older sisters.
Kaylee.
But, in so many ways, aside from God, he was your life. And rightfully so.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you ever really get to relax or feel like you ever got to really relax?
Well, my family will tell you that I am not a very laid back person. So I don't know if that's just natural or if that's just how my mothering is, but no.
That's interesting. And I think without having gone through anything like that, I think I could probably understand that.
Well, if you think about holding someone's life in
Yeah.
your hand, like
Yeah.
giving his medications, giving
Yeah.
him, feeding him, making sure it's not too much or too little, or
Yeah.
my mind was just always going, and then
Yeah.
wondering about the people that came into our home to take care of them.
Yeah.
What's their character like? What are they? What are they doing at nighttime? Are they really taking care of him? Are
Yeah.
they, and it was, we had several good nurses, but we had some that we had to go.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. So,
Yep.
so no, I wouldn't say that I
There was a
did.
point in Fletcher's life. Maybe there wasn't a particular point, but at what point do you recall? And I'm bringing this up because you sent a little video to Brian and me both
Mhm.
of him in the van. So cool. He's behind you,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in his chair, and he's raising his hand to
Mhm.
music,
Mm-hmm.
praising God.
Yep.
Did you recognize a particular time when he really started loving the Lord?
Yeah, I think it was after we came home from the Children's Center and we took him to church with us. And he loved the musicians. We went to a really small, sweet church.
Shout it out.
In Bethany. Oh, it's not there anymore. Grace Covenant Church.
Okay.
Pastor Brent. Woo woo. And he loved the worship. And so I was the children's pastor at that church. And so we would get there early. And so he would be there during practice. And so he would, we'd just sit him up on that front row kind of over so he wouldn't distract the guys. And he had rhythm. It's crazy how much rhythm he had. He always clapped on beat. And then he knew the words to the songs, and then he would, when we'd get to church, he would do this, which is music and sign language. He would say music as soon as we would pull up to the church when we first started,
Really?
when he first came home. So, and my husband loves music, so I think he gets some of that from him as
Yeah.
well. My husband doesn't always listen to praise and worship music, so Fletcher had
He's got
an
great taste, though.
eclectic, yeah,
Great
an
taste.
eclectic. Fletcher liked praise and worship music, and he liked what I'll call dad's music, So he could sing "Comfortably Numb" by Pink Floyd,
Yep.
every word.
Yep.
He could sing that with his dad. So, but yeah, that's and I'm a hand raiser. My husband is not. My daughters are not. But so he would be in church with us because he can't go to Sunday school. He can't.
Yeah.
Unless I go with him. I
Yeah.
don't want to go with him. I want to
Yeah.
be in church.
Sure.
So he just went to church with us. And by that time, he's like 8 or 9 years old. So it was fine. But so some of that I think he probably mimicked off of me because of raising his hands and stuff. But I had all the best praise and worship music because of Fletcher. Because he would hear a song and like it, and then I would just buy it on
Yep.
iTunes
Yep.
or whatever.
That is
and
so cool.
And then
Yeah.
that's what we listened to in the car. Unless we were
Yep.
with Dad, then we listened to something else, But if I was driving, which is always me because it was he and I together all the time, we would do the latest and greatest praise and worship music. So
That is cool. Now,
Yeah.
we're going to leave out some stuff, obviously, but there had to be a time, and I'm not trying to get you to say, God, I'm mad at you, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of myself. And maybe I'm just weird this way. And it's the same. If I were in your shoes and I lost my precious wife, it seems like it would be so hard for me to just say, okay, God, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with everything. And I'm fast forwarding now to later on in his 17 plus years of living. And you're going through different sicknesses, and I don't want to get too far ahead of you, but did you never?
In all honesty, I can't say that I've been mad about the life that Fletcher lived or that he died. I mean, I have questions, but I don't.
Like what?
Well, I went through a period. My dad has died. I've had siblings that have passed away. two of my dad and my sister, they were led to Jesus on their deathbeds, and I knew they went to heaven.
Yeah.
And so, but when Fletcher died, I don't know if it's because he's my son, and that is a completely different kind of love, a different kind of grief, a different kind of whatever. I started to wonder if there was really heaven. Is heaven really a thing?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. But not ever angry. Maybe that'll come some other time, but I don't see how it would, just because, Fletcher had a lovely life, and I'm sure that he exceeded what most people thought he would, to have 17 years. And he was loved by so many people. I don't know how to say it. He
was so much more than the bad things that happened to him.
Yeah. And that's amazing.
For sure.
It's so normal for a kid, for an adult to stub his or her toe and, yell every word in the book. And, and for kids especially to start crying. And then you looked at him and he's just one toe stub after another.
Yeah, for sure.
Just piled on top of him.
Yeah.
And then I look at the pictures of him, and I don't know. In the ones I've seen, I've never seen a picture of him
not smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was almost always happy.
That's a testament to you too, Denise. Like you showed him how, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if I can take credit for that. You know what I mean? He just, we didn't, I don't know that we went out of our way to not treat him differently. We were with him 24/7. So it was just, and maybe he didn't have what he needed to say the words,
Yep.
my life sucks. Why is this happening to me?
Yep.
But he loved being in the hospital. And when he'd be in the hospital, he loved being there, and then he'd come home. He
That
loved
was
being
his
at home.
home away from
It
home.
was his home away from home. It was crazy. And then he'd be really, really sick.
Yeah. So he's gone through Bethany schools, and then you got him into Yukon schools,
Well,
right?
I homeschooled him, and then it was too much for me. He needed to be around other people.
Sure.
And so we went to a Putnam City school for 5th grade, and we did 5th grade twice. And then
Okay.
he went to Hefner Middle School.
Okay.
And we did 7th grade twice, because in 2017, at the end of 2017, he got really sick. Now, he's been home all this time, and we haven't changed any ventilator settings. He hasn't had any hospitalization. So
That's
it's been
amazing.
that is amazing.
a long time,
Yeah.
years and years, without him being even remotely sick. And so he got really sick with gut issues at the end of 2017. So we were in the hospital there, and then that ended up like it was one of his lungs. When we'd go home, we'd go back in, and then so he was hospitalized 11 times in 2017 until he died, and they were not little short hospital overnight visits. They would be for weeks and months at a time. And sometimes we would end up at the Children's Center to do rehab for 30 days. So, but he got really sick. And, just the people there just began to love him and care for him. And it just like became a home away from home for him. He did not, he would sometimes, he would go, I need to go to the ER.
Oh.
You do not need to go to the ER. He was such a mess. It's like because we always checked his temperature twice a day. That's just part of his vitals, and all that.
Yeah.
And then go, oh gosh, it looked like your temperature's raised a little bit. I need to go to the ER. You do not need to go to the ER.
Oh,
You are
that is
fine.
so good.
I'll keep an eye on you though, okay? So yeah, he got.
So he never got to taste a piece of chocolate cake. Never got to have even a spoon of ice cream.
Nope. We did try to feed him by mouth at the children's center, and he didn't like it. Was like foreign to him. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. But he would go through stages of licking things like Doritos, Funyuns, Cheetos.
Yeah.
So he likes salty things. So he would lick things and make. I mean, there's nothing worse than a wet Funyun. Just gonna be honest. It's pretty awful. Yeah.
With all the flavoring sucked off.
You'd lose your mind if you got like a bag of Funyuns and they're all wet slightly.
Yeah, he is. He never ate by mouth. I mean, we would try and it just would not go well.
That is amazing.
And the big thing would be that he would aspirate. And so we were always super duper careful about that. And we did, swallow studies and all that kind of stuff, trying to see why. And I think he just didn't like it. I think it was just foreign to him. He was fine to be fed by a tube, and this other business was too much.
Did he have any lab works that were normal?
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, everything was kind of crazy with that kid.
So let's go a little further ahead. Not quite to the end of his life, but we're getting there. He's just himself going through his normal stuff. He'd have maybe an episode here, an episode there where he would have to have medical attention. But what got him into that stage? What came about that got him into that time in life where it was a little bit different this time?
Yeah. I think, and I could be completely wrong, but so in 2017, it's like his intestines twisted. And so they had to open him up, and then they had to resect the part that was twisted. His tummy would get real big. It's like to where that was part of his vitals. We measured his tummy every night to keep an eye on it. And that particular time we went in, and I just took him to Integris because we knew people there. Like I said, he hadn't had a hospitalization in a long time. And so we just went there, and his stomach was huge. And they had done all their imaging and all that stuff. And they said, he's going to have to go to Children's. There is a surgeon waiting for him. And like literally there was a surgeon in the ER. They took him in there, and then they took him. And then if you're not gross about pictures, I'll show you the pictures of his colon that they resected because it was as big as he was. And so,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so that one incision was opened 5 times because he kept having like, when you open up your body like that and you start messing with that stuff, it's not good. It's not good. And so he ended up having several surgeries in that one hospital stay. And that was the first one we'd had for ever. And then he just kept having trouble with his gut. And then we couldn't fix it. It was not, he ended up having an ileostomy. And the next step for that would have been to take all of his colon if we couldn't.
Goodness.
I mean, so it just ended up. But in 2020, Fletcher got a power chair. I've been pushing him in a wheelchair for all this. So he got a power chair, and we had tried power chairs for years, and it just wasn't his thing. I said, I think he just likes me pushing him. That's what I think he wants, is me to be his servant and push him everywhere. That's what I think he wants.
He likes those lunges.
Oh, the lunges.
He wants to be a part of those lunges.
Yeah, for sure. So we had a new therapist, and he said, have y'all ever done a power chair? And I said, he has really not ever been interested. I guess, could we try? And I said, sure. Oh my gosh, he fell in love with it, okay?
Really?
So when kids have scoliosis and they're in wheelchairs, if they're in a wheelchair all the time, that's expected. Well, Fletcher would bear weight, like I said, with his kid walk, and he stood up in his bed all the time to see us or whatever. So he could bear weight and he could stand up, but needed lots of assistance. So he gets this wheelchair, this power chair, and he never wanted to use that kid walk again. He didn't want to stand up. He only wanted to drive that chair. Okay. Well, that is
That was his driver's license moment.
Exactly. And so it gave him so much independence that I think he
Yes.
didn't know he had,
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but the downfall of that is his scoliosis just got worse because he was not wanting to stand up. He was not wanting to bear weight, and it was becoming painful for him to do so. Like we did therapy forever, and I watch videos now and going, oh my gosh, we were pushing him so hard, thinking that's what he needed. That's not what.
Yeah.
In hindsight, that's not what he needed. He needed to not be doing those things,
Yep.
But we knew he was starting to go over, and so like one of the last orthopedic appointments we had, he had his 6-month X-ray, and the doctor was real stern with me, and his bedside manner was horrific, and he told me that eventually the ventilator was not going to be able to breathe for Fletcher, or he's going to have trouble with his lungs because his ribs and his body was just collapsing like an accordion. And he said, and even on a
All
ventilator,
crushing
it's
together.
not going to, a ventilator's not even going to help him. And I was like, I was all by myself. I didn't know we were having this talk today. I thought we were just here for x-rays, And so that was, if he had the spinal fusion surgery, he would probably not survive it. He was not a candidate for bracing.
My
And so
goodness.
it was really,
What a tough spot to be in for a parent.
yeah. And I was by myself. I was like, dude, say we need to have an appointment and bring your husband, not just all over me while I didn't know how to take it in,
Yeah.
And so you could see, so then we decided we would start palliative care because he was experiencing pain.
Mhm.
And so our pediatrician couldn't really manage his pain. So we needed palliative care to do it. And so they could give him the medicine. And that is literally the only reason why we started palliative care, was for him to be able to get some extra resources and be able to have the pain meds that he needed. And so that ended up having a big hospital stay. And no, we had to change palliative care because we started palliative care at OU, and they didn't tell us that they couldn't really be his doctors unless he was inpatient. So they weren't useful to us unless he was inpatient. So we so then we went with Integris. And so a nurse practitioner came to our house every 3 weeks and, checked on him and did all their stuff. So then we end up in the hospital in August. I mean, it's like 3 years ago now at this time. And so we end up in the hospital, and things are going horribly wrong with his care. Not him being sick, but of the people who are caring for him are making some really big errors in his medication and things dropping off of his MAR. And I mean, it's just horrific. And I happened to just run into the palliative care nurse practitioner, and she goes, "What's going on?" And then I just started bawling. And I go, I don't know what's happening in there. I don't know. And so they took over, and they were able to help me understand what was happening and what needed to happen next and all this stuff. And Fletcher, he had COVID when we were admitted. He went back to back it up. We moved to Yukon in 2020. Okay. And so we finished out at Hefner Middle School, and then he was going to be in high school. So we decided he would go to Yukon High School. And where we live, he could have gone to any school because the school district only goes to 8th grade. So you can pick where you want to go. You can go to Bethany.
Gotcha.
And I thought, I want to go to Bethany because that's where the girls graduated from. And then I decided, well, let's do Yukon because that's our community.
Yeah.
This is our community. And so he went there for his first freshman year. And it was fantastic, and he loved it. And his favorite police officers were there, and he had a police escort out to our car every day when I'd pick him up from school. And so we're getting ready to have our sophomore year, and we go to the school night. We do all this. We get our school supplies. Fletcher got to go to school for one day of his senior year, and then the next day
of his senior year.
No,
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year. And then the next day, literally the next day he was hospitalized and he didn't get to go back to school. He ended up with COVID, and, they were just kind of, this is 2022 and we're much more relaxed on it. So they're not really,
Yeah.
they're not doing x-rays. They're not doing anything, but my
Yeah.
kid is not getting better.
Yeah.
He's not getting better. And so, and then I'm noticing I haven't seen them do an x-ray on him. And so I called a friend who does not work for OU Children. She works for someone else. And I said, and she was his primary caregiver for years. And I said, I need some help. And so I told her what was happening and everything that happened. And she was, oh my gosh, Denise. She goes, so she told me everything to ask for, what lab work and x-rays and all this. And so we did. And his lungs, when they finally did an x-ray that day, his lungs were completely whited out.
Oh, my goodness.
And they had to do a rapid response and take him straight to the ICU, where they did a chest tube on him. And he ended up with, within a short amount of time, he had 4 liters of fluid come off of his little body.
Oh, my goodness.
That sits there on the
That's
floor, and you can
crazy.
see it coming out. And it was light pink.
4 liters?
4 liters of fluid came off of his little lungs.
Sounded like you said pink.
Yeah, and it was pink. The fluid was pink, which I didn't know what that meant. So turns out Fletcher had what they call a chylothorax. And that usually happens when you have open heart surgery and they've nicked a lymphatic, whatever. And so that's where that drainage comes from. And it's usually fixable.
Goodness.
Well, Fletcher had open heart surgery, but he was 10 months old. So that wasn't it. So we're not really sure where that came from or why it happened.
To this day.
Yeah.
You don't know why
You
it was
still
pink.
don't know.
Don't know why.
That is amazing.
So, this is the end of, So we went into the hospital on, I think it was the 16th of August. And so
Of
this
22.
of 22, and we're there. And by the 1st of October, that's when we have the tube. And then they decided they wanted to try putting a chest tube in him for him to go home with, so he could go home. And I was like, well, I know how to do it. I know how to take care of an ostomy. I know how to take care of a feeding tube. Why not learn how to take care of a chest tube? And so at that point, we got hospice, so they could manage his chest tube and also more resources. So we went home on hospice on October 4th, and we had an IEP. We had to reschedule an IEP meeting, so we're trying to get him back into school. And
So you're at this point still
we are not on hospice because he is dying.
This dude's going on.
We're going to school.
Yeah.
We're going back to school. He deserves to go to school. We're going to school.
Yeah.
So we had an IEP meeting because they had to make amendments to his IEP, and because now he has a chest tube. That's another thing they had to add. And so we were home for 2.5 weeks, and his chest tube stopped draining. You'd empty it every day, sometimes several times a day, and it would not drain. So I'm like, something's wrong with this thing. Let's take this out and get a new one. And so the hospice nurse says, y'all are going to have to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. So we were home for 19 days. We were home for 19 days. And then we go to the hospital. It was October 21st. And we went to the hospital. That was a Friday. And we never came back home. So they kept trying to do things to it, to manipulate it, to let it drain. And it would drain a little bit, and then it wouldn't. Well, it had become, the chylothorax was real thick liquid, for lack of a better word, substance. Well, it was like all over his spleen, and it was hard. It was hardening, and that's why the tube was not draining, was not pulling it out.
Oh, squeezing it off?
I don't think it was squeezing off. It had become hard, so it could not pull it out.
Wow.
So that's why it appeared to not be working. And anyway, so that was just a whole debacle. And then the hospice doctor and our the ventilator guy, what are they called? Pulmonologist. He they had a sit down with me again. I'm by myself.
Good grief.
And so I said, we have to stop. I have to call my husband, ask him to come up here before we talk anymore. And so my husband came, Craig came, and we.
No, you said that, or they said that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I said, if this is information my husband needs to hear, and I'm going to have to repeat it, it's not going to work. We need to get Craig up here. So Craig left work, and he came up, and they started telling us, basically, we cannot fix this. We sent you guys home on that chest tube thinking it would buy you a couple of months, and it didn't even buy you 2 weeks. So this is not working. And
Okay, hold on.
okay.
Are you still in the frame of mind of thinking, okay, let's get to the next thing and take care of it then?
No, I think I'm starting to understand what's happening here.
Okay.
Is that he is not going to get better. And our pulmonologist was super laid back, and we would go to appointments with him, and I'd always go, why are we even here? We don't really need this appointment because he's not changing his ventilator. He's not changing his medication. It's we're just visiting, And when he was crying and
the doctor was.
or teared up, not like bawling, but like trying to hold it back. I was like, oh no, if he's crying, things are serious. Things are pretty serious because people were not telling us anything. In all of those hospital stays we had, those 11 hospital stays, not one person said, this is not good.
Yeah.
And I have, friends who are OR nurses who have said to me, after he would have that surgery, the doctor would go, I don't know if he's going to make it home this time. But no one's telling us that. You know what I mean? So no one was having conversations with us like that. So it was, I think I was like going, oh, okay. Okay, so it's time to get done. And my husband, he knew from the jump that this hospital stay was different than any other stay that we had. And I'm not real sure exactly what that was that made him feel like that, but he knew it was not okay and it was going to be different. So
What makes you say that?
because he told me.
Gotcha.
We were in the ICU. It was after they did that chest tube.
Yeah.
And he said, this is not good, Denise. He said, I've known since we got here that this hospital stays different. And we need to talk about some things. And, I'm worried that if something happens to Fletcher, you're not going to understand or not let me grieve the way I need to grieve or think I'm not grieving appropriately because I'm not grieving like you're grieving.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of like, going, what on earth is he talking about?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like listening, going, okay. And then he said, I think we need to, at this moment, commit to, lots of marriages don't survive child loss. And I think we need to make that decision right now that that's what we will survive this. And I was like, going, okay, I promise.
I think that's a pretty cool conversation to have.
Yeah. At that point, I still wasn't there. I was like going, Fletcher always bounces back. He always looks like, oh gosh, we had a house full of people on one of his hospital stays and he had a GI bleed and my mother-in-law was sitting with him at the hospital so we could have a Christmas party at our house. Craig came home from the hospital. She relieved him because we never left Fletcher by himself. And he came home, took a shower, and then his mom called, and she said, Fletcher is bleeding out. And we were like, I'm sorry, what? He's bleeding out. So we left a house full of people in our home and went straight to the hospital. Well, he wasn't bleeding out. He was having he had a GI bleed, and they were able to get it under control. But, we had situations like that. We're like, he always bounced back from that. So at that point, I just thought, okay, babe, we're going to be okay, And so, I don't think it was until we had the conversation with the hospice doctor and the pulmonologist that I was understanding.
It's fascinating to me because I had the same experience where I just didn't know or consider it until it was until it had happened. Yeah. So sitting here listening to you say that, like resonates with me to where do you think now back on that and never think like, how did I
Yeah.
not know? Like,
When
was I?
When I look at pictures, I go, oh, okay. And I had a friend, like I host Halloween for my nieces and nephews, and I had a friend sit with Fletcher so that Craig could be at home and we could have, or no, so I could go home. Craig wasn't there that night. He stayed with Fletcher that evening, but she spent some time with him. She brought a pumpkin up and they're going to paint it and all this stuff. And she's like, oh, he's not okay. So she could see it. I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. You know, I
You're
mean,
so
even
close
then,
to the situation.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I knew he was sick, but when I look at pictures, I go, oh, poor buddy.
So at this point, is he still conscious?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Fletcher's on a ventilator, so we had to make a choice, and
Ugh.
yeah, and so we called certain people that we knew that he needed to see.
Yeah.
And I mean, you would have thought I would have put an ad on Facebook. If you want to see Fletcher, come on up. Because we did not, but that's how many people needed to see him.
Mm.
And Fletcher, we haven't talked about this, but Fletcher loved police officers. He loved police officers. And so we had people coming all day long for 4 days probably.
He had his own badge or something.
Well, before he died, the chief, I think he was the chief, he came and made Fletcher an honorary police officer.
That is so cool.
So
cool.
he's an honorary Yukon police officer. So we had people come to see him, and he was chill. He was not. He'd made bracelets with everybody, or he didn't really make bracelets. He kind of just
At that point,
bossed
he
everybody around, and everybody was just by his bedside making bracelets. Everybody was making bracelets, and
But he did make bracelets before.
oh yeah, got
He
one.
made this one.
Yeah, those bracelets are his legacy. But so, we'd have grown men leaving that hospital room after being with him crying, so people got to come. I had friends that were not happy that there were so many people there. And I said, I invited every one of them. They're here because they need to be here. Fletcher needs to see him. And he's not stressed that they're here,
Yeah.
and he's enjoying them being here. And that's what we're going to do.
That's what matters.
That's what we're going to do. And then it got to be a whole lot. So we had to we stopped that. And then it was just family that were able to come and see him. So
that was still the end of October.
Oh, that was the beginning of November.
Okay.
He died on November 10th.
November
22.
10th.
How to talk about Fletcher's going to meet Jesus.
So, I truly believe that Fletcher loved Jesus.
Mhm.
The way that he worshiped told me he loved Jesus.
No question.
And, but, I don't know what he knows about heaven. And my husband and I could not really, there wasn't a disagreement. There was just, we couldn't, so how do we do this? Do we both tell him? What do we
Yeah.
do? So what we decided is that we would each talk to him whenever we were ready to talk to him, and just talk to him about going to see Jesus. And so I don't know if Craig had talked to him, but I was there with him by myself. And so I told him, I said, Fletcher, do you know where heaven is? And he said, it's in my heart. And I said, well, yeah. Or no, do you know where
Jesus is.
Jesus is? He said, he's in my heart. I said, yeah. I said, but also Jesus is in heaven. And he just kind of looked at me and said, you're going to go get to meet Jesus in heaven. He goes, today? I'm like, oh.
Well, as a matter of fact, maybe.
I don't think it's going to be today. Not with the mood you're in right now. So he, so he was just funny. And he had a button for pain meds the last few days. And when we were trying to tell him, buddy, he'd never had one of those before. So he was never in control of medicine. And so he'd ask for it if he needed it. And so we tell him, buddy, anytime if you're hurting, you just push that button, And so he was kind of grimacing. And I said, "But do you need to push the button?" And he kind of shook his head and he goes, "Could I get some Tylenol, please?"
Oh, did he really?
He thought that's all he was getting, is that someone was going to bring it to him. It was like,
Yeah.
and that was way more than Tylenol, I'm
Right.
sure.
Yes,
So, but
yes.
yeah, so we have some Fletcher funnies even in the last few days.
You said something earlier, and I've heard you say this before. With Fletcher's passing, it has caused you to wonder about heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably normal
Okay.
to have those kind of thoughts. I'm just telling you my point of view. Okay. I 100% believe there is a God,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe there is a Satan. I believe there is a heaven, and I believe there is a hell. I do believe Fletcher knew Christ without question.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. I believe 100% Fletcher, I think he still has that same energy, that same drive, and even that, maybe that animated expression and so forth being pushed around,
Mm-hmm.
carted around, whizzed around in that chair. But he's not in a chair.
Yeah.
I fully believe. I don't have any idea, no way of knowing how it all works. Nobody does.
Right.
But I really fully believe that he gets time alone with Christ. And I don't know how all that, again, I don't know how all of that really works. But I love to believe he gets that time alone with Christ. And he hears from the Creator himself, dude, you killed it. You absolutely slayed life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe if there is a time, and I don't know how, when the Bible talks about the great judgment, I don't know how that really, plays out.
Right.
But I believe if there's a point where we all come before God and God looks in the book of life to see if our name's there, I believe fully when Fletcher comes up for his turn, God looks at him and says, "My man, I
Yeah.
don't need to look in this book for you."
Mm. Well, see, that's my struggle isn't, oh no, did he get to go? You know what I mean? My struggle is what I've believed all these years about heaven. Is that true? Because I think if anybody deserves to be in heaven, Fletcher Burns deserves to be in heaven. You know what I mean?
And I truly do believe
So.
it is.
I'm getting better with it, and
That's on you.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with you
right,
throwing around those thoughts and ideas
Right.
and grappling with them some. I think anybody who goes through grief has their own way of grieving and deals with different things, and there are different degrees to the grief that they go through. Brian's grief is very different than somebody else's grief.
Yeah.
And their grief is different than your grief.
Sure.
There are a lot of similarities, perhaps. There are others who never have questions of any kind.
Yeah.
And I wish that were the way it is for everybody,
Right.
but it's not. And I believe God's okay with you having those questions. Is it what I've always thought? Is it really that way?
Yeah.
I really and truly do believe it is.
Do you talk a little bit about, like, I see you at Fletcher's grave
Mhm.
and doing things to, I don't know what the purpose is, but like, talk about how you have whatever's worked for you
Yeah.
in your grief and to honor him.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like, and I want to, we spoke not very recent, not too far ago about a fireplace. And when we were talking about the fireplace, you mentioned to me that anybody that's going through the kind of grief that you and I are navigating, that all they really want to do is talk about how special the person was and what they meant to them.
Mhm.
So 2 parts, like what since you've been in the grief of loss, what has worked for you as a salve? And then talk just a little bit about what Fletcher meant to you.
Well, so I didn't ever go to my dad's grave. That is not who I am. I'm not a
Yep.
person that goes to cemeteries.
Yeah.
Well, apparently I am, because it was real important to me for his to have where he's buried is really a small little. I mean, you can see the whole. You can stand in Fletcher's spot and see the whole cemetery. It's a really small country cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And Fletcher probably would hate it because it's real quiet out there. But
Not very many stops.
well, it's like, where are all the people,
Yeah.
Mom? But it's lovely and it's peaceful, and I don't go out there a whole lot. My husband goes every Wednesday. Craig goes to the cemetery every Wednesday, and he reads to Fletcher, and I mean that's what he
Wow.
does. Yeah. But for me, I go out there, and I just because I know he's not there, but he's there.
Yeah. I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I worry in the winter if he's cold. So
Mm. Hmm.
but that cemetery is a real special place for me. It's peaceful
Mhm.
and it's calm, and in taking care of his gravestone, I'm still taking care of him.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he required 24/7 care, so
Mm.
For
It's just a
19
kind of a-
years.
for a extension of caring for him, I guess. I mean, if we analyze it. So, I mean, I went out there yesterday for a little bit, and I just talked to him. I told him I was going to talk to you, and talk to him about you, and
Mm.
so he didn't answer back. Sorry, I had to be funny on that one. But it's a special place for me. I mean, like I said, I didn't realize I would be the person that's out there with granite cleaner and a broom and all that, trying to keep it nice looking.
You're
And so-
like you said though.
Yeah.
You're still taking care of him.
yeah.
Advocating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
So-
like Brian asked, what do you think of Fletcher? What has
Yeah,
he
what-
meant to you?
To
Oh my
you.
gosh. He means everything to me. I mean, my identity is wrapped up a lot in Fletcher and being his mom, as for my girls as well. But he needed me at a different level,
Completely.
completely different level. And
Caretaker 100.
Yeah.
yeah, and we're a different breed whenever you're a caregiver. And I think that grief is different as well. So the Bible tells us that there are trials and tribulations. That's where our character comes from, and so I think he made me a better person. I think he made me a better mom. I
Yeah.
think he made me a better wife. I think he made me a better neighbor,
Mhm.
and Fletcher's big thing that he cared a lot about was kindness. And that was his thing. If he gave you a bracelet, if you tried to pay him for it, it was offensive to him. And he would say, "It's an act of kindness," is what he would say every time. And he thought you were absurd if you didn't understand it. He'd be looking at you like, it's an act of kindness. I mean, he's totally offended by you trying to give him money for it, so, but I mean, he's a part of me, I mean, He's helped to make me who I am today.
So you believe he's in heaven?
I do believe he's in heaven. I do. I mean, the Bible tells us that he goes to prepare a place for us, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm assuming that place is heaven. And so I think that's where Fletcher is. And I just, like I said, it was just a struggle. I think it was just because, it was a struggle. I have questions. I have questions of, we had to make the choice to take him off of a ventilator.
Yeah.
So, there's he was so close to his 18th birthday. Could he have had one more birthday? Could we have had one more Christmas? Could we have had one more Thanksgiving? So
I think that the truth of the matter is it's possible to, what if our way
sure.
to an infinite point,
Right.
when in reality there is incredible mercy
Sure.
extended in that act of love.
Sure.
But that's a really tough thing to do. I think I would grapple with that too.
Sure. But I have to go back to what I said before is only the Lord knows the number of Fletcher's days. So I didn't write those numbers down. I didn't.
If that's true, and I fully believe it's true, if that's true, I don't believe you would have taken him off the vent at the time you did.
Well,
if otherwise, I mean.
Right. I mean, so you have to choose how you're going to look at it, right? You have to choose,
I think,
was I God's instrument? Were we God's instrument? And was he leading us to that day?
I think God gives us wisdom in those kind of times. And I think God is comfortable with allowing you the choice to do that. Is it worth, you're weighing all kinds of things, is it worth giving him an extra month and a half to his birthday? Is it worth giving him, an extra whatever to the next event?
Right.
Is it really worth this? Or is there more mercy?
Yeah.
And saying, buddy, I love you like crazy. That's why I'm doing this. And I think that's when God, in his spirit, steps in and says, oh, yeah, it's fine to do that.
Yeah.
I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to have to pull the plug. Nobody wants to have to make the decision to take him off the ventilator. Nobody wants to be the one to make that decision.
Exactly.
But nobody knew better than you because you had been his life for 17, almost 18 years. So, yeah, I think God did put you in that situation, in that time, in that moment, to be the one to orchestrate the timing that God had for his life.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you could what if it to death.
Absolutely.
And that's one, it's not going to accomplish anything,
Right.
And you might get the answers wrong. You know what I mean?
You're always going to come up, you're always going to be able to come up with something.
Yeah. So I have to
but to
believe.
what end?
Right. But I have to believe that the Lord was with us. And I have to believe that, or I know that there were hundreds of people praying for us.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people praying for us.
Yeah.
And didn't know what we were dealing with because
Yeah.
I did not. People were shocked when Fletcher died.
Yeah.
They didn't know. People
Yeah.
didn't know. They just knew it was another hospitalization for Fletcher,
Yeah.
And so I have to believe people were praying for us and that the Lord led us to that moment, as hard as it was and as gut-wrenching as it was, that it was, as you said, the merciful thing to do because he was very, very sick.
I think,
and we were very, very weary.
yes. And I think Jesus was anxious to get him home.
He's a pretty cool kid. I
and
don't
make
blame
him whole.
Yeah.
Again, I have no idea how that looks. I don't know if there's a waiting time.
Right.
You know, I believe our soul's eternity begins at our moment of passing. I don't know how that literally looks,
Right.
other than that.
I think about the thief. The thief gives me comfort today.
Yes, yeah.
Today you will be with me.
There
in
you go.
paradise.
Yeah. And that's exactly right.
And he didn't have to do nothing.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just had to believe.
That's right. And
over
however,
there, non-verbally,
right.
Yeah.
like
So however it looks in the in-between, who cares? We're in paradise.
Right.
Whether that's in a holding pattern, eternally speaking, or we're literally with God in that moment, which I do believe he is.
Yeah.
And I believe, Denise, I said this before, I fully believe, and I love to think about him being on the front row of the great cloud of witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling he's not a quiet cheerer.
Or is he leading worship?
I
That's
was-
what I always wonder.
Well, I
That's
think
what-
that's
Leading
part of
worship.
it. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think so too. Like I imagine Fletcher and
I
Shan
completely think that's part
just
of it.
dancing and singing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. But I think he's cheering you on.
Mm.
I think he's praying for you. I don't know if when we get to heaven, it's not super clear on what things really mean. You know, will we recognize each other as
Right.
mom and son? Those are things that we think about in this life. In that moment, who cares?
Right.
But I like to think and I like to believe he sees you right now as mom. He's paid the price, and he's going to not quit praying for you.
Mm.
Your soul is extremely, and Craig's soul is extremely, and sisters, extremely important to that sweet boy.
Yeah.
And that's why I say he's cheering loudly. He might be leading worship too. Yes, absolutely. But I have a feeling he's saying, Lord, that's her. That's her. And the Lord's saying, dude, I know. No, you understand that's her.
yeah.
I hope so.
And I fully believe the time will come when you stand before the Lord and you're going to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. And Fletcher is going to be there saying, see, Mom, I told you.
Yeah.
I sure hope so. Because it
I
was a
believe that.
privilege to be his mom. And, I mean, the Lord gave me a great gift when he gave me Fletcher.
You did a great
And it
job
was-
with him.
You're a ferocious. I'm serious. I mean, just ferocious. Listen, let me tell you something you need to know. There's a lot of people that got to get ready to fight, and there's just some people that are ready to fight all the time. And you just fought all the time, and that is not. You're born with that heart.
I believe it. I believe that I was made to be his mom, and he gave me what I needed to be able to take care of him. You know,
And you
never.
you did a great job.
I mean, I learned what I needed to learn to be able to care for him. I could be driving my van and have to pull over and change out a trach in the Burger King parking lot. You know, I mean, just I
hate
became brave.
to make light of it, but I'm afraid if I'm driving, I'm thinking, sorry, dude, it's just you right now. I can't
Nope.
do anything about that.
not if
I
it's your
can't.
kid. It's not.
I
can't.
can't.
You
No,
would. You
I
totally would.
yeah, you're right.
People are at risk if I try to read text messages while I'm driving.
Oh
She's got-
boy.
She's got
I at least pulled over, but it's, you know, I mean, the Lord gave me
Without
courage.
a doubt. Without a
gave me
doubt.
courage.
What an incredible story. What an incredible testimony. Not just what you're verbalizing, but what your life is. An incredible testimony. And Denise, I believe God not only loves you, but God is increasing in you blessings and riches that are not earthbound. And I love the fact that you willingly gave yourself. There was never a moment of, and it would have been normal, but never really a moment of, God, why? It was always a, God, I'm ready. Let's do this. And I don't know what you all are dealing with. You may have your own Fletcher. It may not come in the form of a son or daughter. It may come in a completely different kind of situation. It may be relational, it may be financial, it may be mental, it might be physical. There are a number of Fletchers that we all deal with in life. It's not always easy. Most of the time it's not. But I want you to know the grace that was extended Denise and Craig is ready to be extended to you as well by God. Every single day, the Lord looks for ways that He can show us grace, show us love, and give us His mercy. And if you have any needs that you're dealing with at all, we want you to reach out to us, message us. At bare minimum, we're going to pray for you. And there may be other ways that we can help you too, but we want to know what's going on in your life. Denise, I'm so thankful that you joined us today. What an incredible and powerful story in life that boy lived. Absolutely.
It's my favorite thing to talk about, so.
I can understand, completely understand.
Except for a heart singing hallelujah, soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song, 'cause you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Oh, come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song, 'cause you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me, lift up your song, 'cause you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. So I throw up my hands, praise you again and again, 'cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. it's not much, but I'm
You're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness, I will be on sing.
Here comes my favorite part.
10,000 reasons for my heart to find.